Welcome back to Yoshi Entertainment, everybody. So, I have a very controversial topic to discuss for this video. So, if you're very easily triggered or offended by stuff that's pertaining to race, gender, biracial, all that kind of stuff, then this is not the video for you. But I saw this in the media and different social media websites, and it really struck a chord with me. So, I wanted to make a video about it. So I was scrolling through YouTube and I saw this reel that was it was a snippet from a video from a YouTube channel called See the Thing Is Podcast. Now the name of the video is called I Don't Know Why It's Hard for Me to Celebrate Interracial Couples. Now I told y'all this was going to be a controversial video, so just by that title you can see just how controversial. Now, that title, I'm not going to lie, caught my attention, and I wanted to hear what they had to say. Now, let me say this before I continue. I have nothing against interracial relationships. I am not racist. You can be with whoever you want to be with. I've said this multiple times on this channel that I have promoted marriages, marriage first and then all other stuff later. With people that you love, that you respect, that love you, that respect you. So I don't want to hear any, oh, you just hating on, people getting in mixed relationships, because that's not the truth. And I've said that before. But anyways, they had some very interesting and valid arguments about this subject that I think went over a lot of people's heads. And because a lot of people they kind of just saw them as like, oh, mean, bitter, hateful individuals. I feel like a lot of the points that they were really trying to make, some really without saying them, like saying it without saying it, kind of just went over people's heads. And because, like I said, people were wrapped up in their emotions and their offense, they didn't want to see what they were trying to say, Now, as I was saying, there's 2 points that stuck out to me a lot. The first point was that one of the young women were saying that she didn't like celebrating interracial relationships, and she used the Cheerios commercial. Y'all remember that Cheerios commercial that came out a couple of years ago? I can't remember what year. I want to say it was like 2014. It might have been like 2016. I can't remember. They had a Cheerios commercial that came out. The dad was black. The daughter was biracial. Obviously, the mother was white. Everybody lost their freaking minds over that commercial. Well, not everybody, but a lot of people did. And a lot of people had some really mean things to say. But the point that she was trying to make was that she felt like the media, these companies, especially these companies that put out like these movies and these commercials, that they're trying to restructure and rebrand, repackage what a black family looks like. Like, we know that that's not a black family. Like, and I like I said, I'm going to say this again. I have nothing against interracial relationships or biracial individuals, although we got to call a duck, right? If you're black, you're black. If you're biracial, you're biracial. We have to draw those lines. We have to make that plain, because there are people who are walking around who are biracial calling themselves black, and the media, they want people who are biracial to take some of these roles. They want a more digestible version, as she said, of what they want to consider black. And for some people, some of these corporations, some of these, media outlets, it's light-skinned people, it's biracial people. They want that to be their black. They don't want actual black people. And that's very detrimental. I don't think y'all realize how much so to the black community. Like, I get it. You want to claim everybody that's cute and talented as black that might not be black, that's actually biracial. But by doing that, we're displacing actual black people. And there have been people who have said this before, even non-black people and biracial people. There are some biracial people. Like, I've seen some celebrities. I think Zendaya is one of them. She makes it known that, like, she is biracial, not to like be mean or to disassociate with being black, but because she doesn't want to take spaces, places, opportunities that should actually be for black people, just because people want to use her as the face of an actual black woman. Like I said, this is the point I believe she was trying to make. And this is coming from somebody who is biracial. She said she was biracial in the video. All of those young women said that they were biracial. And this is coming from somebody who is biracial. So don't just say, oh, you black women are just saying that. Like, they're saying this too. Now, I know some people might think, like I said, drawing those lines, calling what's black, black, and biracial, they think that that's unimportant, that there's like a problem with that. And I feel like that's an immature and ignorant way of thinking, because, again, that right there is what has us in the position that we have right now. But anyways, point number 2 that I feel like they were trying to make that went completely over a lot of people's heads and that offended some people for all the wrong reasons for some reason, This young woman was saying she didn't like the fact that interracial relationships were celebrated because, or she doesn't celebrate interracial relationships because she feels like it's being pushed too much in the media. Like every time you see a black man in a lot of these high places, like celebrities, athletes, you see them with white wives, white baby mamas, white girlfriends. And we have to be honest. Like we have to be completely honest. Like we can't just, you can't just get mad, you know, and say, oh, that's not the truth. You have to be honest. A lot of these, they call them, some of them call them high value men. Some of them just call them, like I said, celebrities, athletes. They have, like I said, these white counterparts. And one of the young women that was sitting there in the podcast, I guess she kind of spoke for the three of them. So I'm assuming what she said was accurate, that they all have white mothers and black fathers. And another thing, like I said, that she was pointing out was that a lot of times those unions, they don't always go the way they're marketed to go, so to speak. For instance, like a lot of people, like I said, she was saying that they market these pairings. Sometimes they end in disasters and they have children, and those children have to live through those disasters. Now, I know some of y'all are saying, you reaching, you bugging, you tripping. But just think about it. How many horror stories have you heard? Because they're all over the internet. If you don't believe me, go to TikTok. Even on YouTube, there are whole compilations of biracial individuals talking about how horrible their lives were because their white, parent and their black parent got together for the wrong reasons, and they split up and they were at the mercy of one or the other one, and their lives were misery. And like I said, a lot of the times it's these black men, white women relationships. I'm not bashing because there are some black women, white men relationships that don't go well either. I'm just saying it seems like majority of the ones that don't go well involve black men and white women. And there are horror stories all over the internet, like I said. Just look it up if you don't believe me. Of biracial children talking about, my black dad got with my white mom. He left, he wasn't there. I was at the mercy of my white mom and her family. And a lot of these people who they were at the mercy of, their white families, like their grandparents and uncles, were not good people. I'm not saying all of them were like that, but with a lot of these young people, these biracial young people, some of their family members on the white side of their family, they were not happy with the fact that their mother went out and had them for a black man. Some of them found out real early that unfortunately their white family was racist. And they were basically at the mercy of their white mother who could not teach them how to navigate life as a biracial individual. And at the mercy of their racist white family. As a matter of fact, I can give you a pretty popular example of some of this stuff. Brittany Renner. Everybody knows who she is. Now, I know she's not the perfect person, that she's done, things that nobody should do. Although she is a good example of this. She did get on a podcast. I want to say it was Vlad TV, if I'm not mistaken. And she expressed her upbringing. Basically, really what kind of made her into the person really that she is today. That she had a black father and a white mother. That her black father was not there. After, I guess, he got her mother pregnant with her, he kind of just dipped. And her white grandparents were so mad at her mother for getting pregnant for a black man that they didn't even show up to see her mother give birth to her. And then she, like I said, with the others, were at the mercy of her white mother and her racist white grandparents. You know what that does to a person having to grow up, especially as a child, knowing that your family does not like you for reasons you couldn't even control. And even in the situations where the grandparents or the mother who's white isn't racist, or, the man and woman did stay together, they didn't just, split up and end up having the child in a single parent household, it's still an issue because, like I said, some of these unions, they're not put together for the right reasons. And it ends up being, we wanted white passing biracial children. And some of these biracial children, they're not white passing. They look black. And their parents get upset because their skin was too dark. Or because their hair was too kinky. They wanted the loose, curly type 3 hair. And they expected to get that because their black father thought that they would get that because he was sleeping with a white woman. But then when they get the type 4 black hair, they get upset. And a lot of these children, they get traumatized, they get thrown under the bus. Favoritism happens sometimes. It's a nightmare. And all of that stuff, that is damaging and traumatic to an individual, even as an adult. Although, again, I'm going to say that I'm not saying that it's all the black men, white women unions that this happened with, because another example, Zendaya, her father is black and her mother is white. And she seems to be a very, level-headed, competent, respectful young woman. So I'm not saying it happens every single time, but it's a reoccurring theme that I have noticed, though. And I believe that that's what she was trying to point out. And she was trying to say, possibly being somebody, I'm not trying to put words in her mouth, but possibly being somebody, and for those who were involved in that kind of, toxic environment and upbringing, it's triggering to see that kind of union be pushed and celebrated in the media. Like, you go through something like that and then you see people celebrating that kind of stuff, you're going to get triggered too. And I think that that's what she was really trying to say. Although I saw a lot of people in the comments calling her mean and bitter and hateful and saying that she was just speaking out of her own traumatic experience. But I have a question to raise about that. Is it that she's just speaking out of her traumatic experience? She's just being mean and bitter? Or is it because she knows that, like I said, a lot of times with these kind of unions, these interracial unions, they're not, like I said again, built on the right things. And any union built on, what it's not supposed to be built on is going to crumble. And anybody that's around and involved, they're going to get caught in the crossfire. And I think that's what the problem is. They're saying, please stop doing this. Please stop promoting this, because we know that people usually don't build these unions on the right principles for the right reasons. And the last thing they want is another child brought into this world by two individuals that have no intentions on doing right by them, raising them right, loving them, giving them affection. And some of those individuals, they don't want to be here. It's really saddening and heartbreaking to see. They don't want to be here because of this stuff. And they feel like they're a mistake, which they're not, because I don't believe in people being a mistake. Although that's what they feel because of all of this trauma and this toxicness that they've gotten, put into, and they didn't have any control being put into it. Now, I already know what some people are probably going to say. People are going to be offended. They're going to be mad. They're going to say that I'm being biased, which I'm not. I am telling people what I've seen, not just what I've seen on social media, but what I know, what I've seen with my own eyes, people around me experiencing. And it hits different when you do actually see with your own eyes in real life and not just on social media. Although, like I said, I already know what some people are going to say because I see them bringing up these kind of points all the time in these kind of conversations. I already know people are going to say, well, look, Yoshi Entertainment, you were just talking about Zendaya in the other video that you made a couple of days ago with Tom Holland. Isn't that kind of hypocritical? No, because Zendaya is biracial. She's not black. And as I've said before, I don't know these celebrities personally, but by the things that they say, the things that they do, actions speak louder than words. You can tell for the most part by the way somebody carries themselves if they're a decent person or not. And from what I can tell, both Zendaya and Tom Holland are decent people who are getting in a relationship because they do genuinely care about each other and respect each other. And despite what everybody is saying about them being too young, which that's absolutely crazy because they're not, they're getting married. They're making commitment a priority. That's not something you see in people who aren't getting together for the right reasons. And another argument that I know people are going to bring up because I've seen it happen. I've seen it be brought up upon a multitude of occasions. People love to bring up the Loving v. Virginia case. Everybody remembers this. They made a whole movie about it. And people love to say, oh, well, you black women are over here complaining about a problem that y'all helped create. First of all, let me debunk that real fast because Mildred Loving was not a black woman. She was a biracial woman. She was half Native American, half African American. And I read somewhere, even during my research on her, that she didn't even identify as black. She identified as Native American. So, again, like I said, most of the arguments that I've seen in rebuttal that just come out of, like I said, offense and emotions whenever people bring up these subjects because they don't want to see the truth, I've heard them all. I've heard them all. And they're all empty. They have loopholes. Anyways, as I said before, if you've seen any amount of my videos, you know I always promote relationships that are wholesome, that are non-toxic, that are functional between a man and a woman. You know this. I don't have any bias on who gets together with whom as long as it's for the right reasons. You're not putting down a whole nother group of people in the process. I feel like that needs to be repeated. I know I'm sounding redundant, but I'm trying to get a point across. But anyways, I hope you guys, really think about what I said, ponder about it, ponder on it, really think about it, and just be open-minded about the points that I made in this video. I encourage you to watch their video and be open-minded to the points that they made and what they said. And she even said, the young woman to the right, to the furthest right, she was saying that, she admitted that perhaps she was looking at it from a toxic perspective, okay? So let's extend some grace and mercy for that at least, but also be open-minded, okay? Now, y'all respectfully tell me what you think down in the comments below.